Ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen, we're in the Gemara, Masachet Rosh Hashanah, Daf Chaf Amud Bet. It might be the swan song tonight for all things related to Kiddush HaChodesh. I'm not saying it will be, but it might be. Why do I say? Because we're almost at the next Mishnah. So that's what happens. What we're up to in the Gemara over here is Chaf Amud Bet. And I got a special request. Someone this year emailed me, or texted me rather. It's just too fast. Just trying to cover too much ground. Can you go slower? Be more deliberate? I'm still on a learning curve, so I'll move slower.
It's not the texture, but I would echo that.
All right. I
just didn't want you to think that it was one person.
I thought it was after some kind of a caucus of the year. Fine, as long as it came up. So what? So what? Yeah, it's okay. Listen, we're not in a race over here. The goal is not to cover ground, but to really understand the depth of what's happening, at least to our level, and the mechanics of the Gemara, and to think deeply about how the Mishnah is constructed and why the Gemara asks the questions that it asks. Many times, I'm sure you've noticed over the years, this year has preempted the exact questions the Gemara is going to come up with based on our learning of the Mishnah. This time, last year was no exception. There are three cases in the Mishnah. We've seen the first one. And it had to do with everyone seeing the Kiddush HaChodesh, seeing the new moon, the Beit, and many Jews around. And that's case 1A, and 1B was the investigation of the Eidim. In either case, sunset, or rather darkness, Tzedek Kochavim arrived before the court could render its judgment and give a psak. It's a new month. Therefore, the new moon that they had seen was not going to have the power to make it Rosh Chodesh, and instead, that day was not Rosh Chodesh, but that night was Rosh Chodesh, i.e., it became day 31, which is day 1. Yeah, had they actually got it in time, then the day, even though the sun was setting, it would still declare Rosh Chodesh, and that would be day 1 of the new month. And we talked last time about some of the permutations of that. The second case, which we're up to tonight, is, I'm sorry, I forgot, the end of the case we talked about last week, which was the Eidim are under investigation, but then it's too dark outside and it's finished. There was a Havamina. Well, maybe you can allow the case to keep going. It started during the day. I gave the not precise example. Yes, Sudash Lusi. Just extend the Ritzeh. You're going to say it even if it's late because you started the meal before sunset. In the case, it's not exact, it's just by way of analogy, it doesn't really match up, but the analogy the Gemara thinks you might want to draw is a court session in a civil matter in which we're trying to get to the verdict and we need to investigate the witnesses who are testifying in a civil case. It ran to darkness, fine, you could still render the verdict because you started the case before. And then the Gemara says, no, Kiddush HaChodesh does not work that way. It's in a separate category. So the Gemara says, and by the way, here's another source, and it quotes a pasuk. A pasuk we know very, very well. We always say, Tiku v'chodesh shofar v'kestem chagenu. And the second verse, Ki chok l'Yisrael hu mishpat l'elokei Yaakov. And chok and mishpat, and we said that just as the court case must begin during the daytime, so too the entire rendering of the law, the chok, and the legislation, now it's a new month rather, has to also be during the daytime. And that was where we stopped last time. Please.
So, civil case, you said Chakira Ta'edim. Is it just their Chakira or is it also the Edut?
In the case of the civil matter, it could be even their Edut.
So the whole trial is
yeah, because they started before. And they could render a verdict afterward. Yeah. But not, and then the Gemara says, yeah, but it's not a parallel case. Why? Because Kiddush HaChodesh in a separate category. And now the Gemara comes to the next line in the Mishnah. Ra'u beitin yamdu shnaim v'yidu bifneim. This is not because it was too late, just telling you procedurally. If the whole beitin saw the new moon, so two of them will stand up and they will testify. So the Gemara wants to know, why is it that we care about having basically a play where we need someone to read a script saying the two of us saw the new moon and it looked like this and we want you to accept it. The whole court saw it. So the Gemara says, Amai, why should that be that we need two to leave the Beit Din, stand in front of the Beit Din, and make this declaration. We testify that we've seen it. Just have the Beit Din announce. We all saw it. Lo tehei shmiya on page 25b. I'm probably about 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 lines up from the bottom. Shnayim was the first word on the line, and it's v'amai after the 2 dots. Fourth word in. V'amai lo tehei shmiya gedola meriyah. All right. Why is it necessary? Why is it necessary to do this? We shouldn't ever allow hearing testimony to be greater than the actual act of seeing the event itself. The only reason the Gemara assumes why the judges need to hear from witnesses is because they weren't there for whatever the case is about.
I mean, how likely is it that the Beit Din is going to be the only ones who saw the moon and nobody else is there to testify? I mean, it just seems.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's so much cynicism nobody wants to run to the Beit Din to find out that they got a good meal out of it, but no one accepted their edut. So they all saw it. They happened to see it. So they or they don't want to wait. They say, like, let's just do it. We saw it. Let's go. You know.
On Art's question, though, does it matter if there's no aiding or if everybody saw it? Because we had that initial.
That was the first case.
No, I understand, but there's a subtlety in the second case that I'm not sure I fully understand. So in the first case, everybody saw it. In the
Right.
second case, only the Beit Din saw it?
If other people saw it, they haven't arrived at the Beit Din, and the Beit Din doesn't want to
They
wait.
could have seen it, but they're not there to testify
Right.
at that moment.
Right.
Okay.
But since the judges are all in one room and they all saw it through
No.
the glass ceiling in the Beit Din or something, so, okay, so
Right.
by that doesn't work. You
So-
have to see it actually, not through a
So
window.
the actual difference between 2 and 1 is the Dayanim, sorry, no one
It's okay.
have to play player coach. They have to play ADM in that, because there are no ADM there.
But-
Not that there are no ADM in the world. There's no
Right.
ADM there at that moment.
But in case 1, it's that the knowledge is so well known to everyone, the Beit Din and all the people in surrounding environs of Jerusalem, that you might think that it is superfluous to have
ADM.
Adim or to have even a declaration. So the Mishnah says, if you didn't have the declaration, it's not Rosh Chodesh. Everybody knows it's not about what they know. It's about the stamp, and it didn't happen. And then you ran out of time. But in this case, sure, there could be other witnesses, but the case is not that everybody knows the answer. It's that the Beit Din is saying, we're running out of time. Let's just do it. And they do it in time. But instead of just announcing it's time, they need 2 among their own to stand up in front of the court. They're sitting in a semicircle. 2 of them come off their seats, stand facing everybody, and say, we hereby testify that we have seen the new moon, and it looked like this, and it looks like this. And they say, oh, okay, good. Makudesh, Makudesh, Makudesh. And it's a new month. But they all saw it. So it's clear. There's no news being delivered by these so-called witnesses who a minute ago were seated as judges. So why do you have to go through that experience? And the Gemara's first supposition is the only reason we have a mechanism of witnesses in general in cases, be they civil or capital, is to tell us a story about something we didn't see. Therefore, we have to rely on someone's testimony, that they saw. But we all saw it. So let's obviate the need for a middleman amongst ourselves and just announce.
So my last question.
Oh, please, this is good. It's important.
If in fact, in the first case, the Gemara ruled you had to have someone had to testify when everyone saw it.
Right.
Certainly in the case where all the Beit Din saw it, there should be no question that someone has to get up and testify, because we've already established.
You're right. Okay, so case 1A is a case where in case 1A, it's not dealing with procedurally whether 2 people have to stand up or how they're going to declare. It just says, let's say the whole world knew that, like everybody knew, the Beit Din knew, and all the people in Shalim knew it's a new month. How come? Because they looked in the sky and they saw it. But before the court could declare it, it skips the step about how would that procedure happen. Before they could declare it, Pitom, it's dark outside and it's too late. So you might have thought, yeah, but everybody knew. So obviously yesterday was really Rosh Chodesh, was day 30 becoming day 1. No, says the Gemara, Kamash Malan, the Mishnah comes to teach you, if there hasn't been a declaration by Beit Din, then it doesn't work. Now, case 2 is, okay, how would they make that declaration? What do they need to do in a case where only the Beit Din was there, right? If there were witnesses there, that's case 1B. The witnesses come and they're being examined. If the examination is completed before dark and the court declares it's a new month, it's a new month. But if the court extends the time of the examination and it goes till after dark, again, you could fall back on, yeah, but everybody knows what's going to happen. And the witnesses are not imbeciles. They have a brain. They said what they saw, and it turns out we were able to confirm it. So we started the case before dark. So what's the problem over here? Just announce. Yeah, what you saw, turns out yesterday was day one of the new month. But the Gemara says, Kamash Malon, that doesn't work. It's case two, turn up the microscope, so to speak, or the camera to focus on, okay, what is the procedure for the Beit Din to announce? Well, if the Beit Din themselves saw it, why did they miss the time? Well, why didn't they just say, it's a new month? See it and have one guy get up and scream, Mekudesh, and everyone will say, Mekudesh, Mekudesh, and that's it. We're finished. But they didn't do that. Why? What had to happen? The answer is two among them had to get up, stand facing everyone else, testify what they saw, and by the by, another two who were the backbenchers, who were not part of the Sanhedrin, had to sit down to take their place because you need the court to be filled with the requisite number. So
they just didn't have the numbers.
Let's say they didn't have the numbers. That could have been the delay or whatever. But the Gemara is basically saying, like, okay, why do you need to take two of the judges and make them stand facing everybody else to give some kind of testimony when everybody already knows what the answer is? Why do you need? It's sort of cuts the question of why do you need witnesses in a court? The answer is you don't. If the court was on site and saw things, you could just say, well, they saw it, so they'll just judge what they saw.
You don't need them.
But you don't need it ever. Maybe you don't need witnesses ever. Maybe capital case is different. We're going to see that later tonight. I alluded to it the other night.
Yeah.
But the Gemara then says, okay, the problem is, so v'amai, again, lo tehishmiya gedola miriyah, you're not going to make hearing testimony from witnesses greater than the actual act of seeing. And the Mishnah already said, ra'uhu beitin. So if ra'uhu beitin, so all that's left is to say, okay, Rosh Beitin, say the word, Mekudesh, Mekudesh, and it's done. You don't need a give and take. It's literally giving them a laminated card and saying, just read it, because everybody knows the answer already. There's no actual investigation of these so-called witnesses. They're judges already. So Amar Rabbi Zera says, no. The case in question in the Mishnah, and the reason why it's because Rabbi Zera says, you're right. If they had actually seen it, it's true. Seeing is greater than hearing. Eino domish shmiel l're'iyah. You've heard that expression? It's not the same thing when you hear about something than when you see it. It's connected to this. If you saw it, so you don't need someone to tell you what it was, you saw it. So Amar Rabbi Zera kigon shra'u balayla. The case must be that they saw the moon, but when they saw the moon, it was dark outside, and it was night. Since it was night, and at night there can't be the convening of the Beit Din to make a case happen. They don't try cases at night. And they only saw it at night. It's too late. It's after the stars came out, they saw it. So it's dark. So now we can't do anything. That's when you say, okay, so it's not, there's nothing to talk about. It's not gonna work. Instead, we're gonna need two of them to get up when the next day.
Mm-hmm.
In the daytime. In other words, this is really like Rashi's idea. And I'll show you it inside. Rashi, it's toward the bottom of Rashi. It says, Ve'amai. Ve'amai yamdu shnayim v'ya'idu. Why does two have to get up and testify? Halara'u kulan. They all saw it. Yikadshuhu b'ri'yatam. Shemakadosh l'chodesh. In their vision, they saw it. Delotah shmiya sheshomim pi'edim. Gedola miriyah. Shouldn't be that which they're hearing from witnesses is greater than what they saw. They saw it already, so you don't need it hearing it. When you look at the famous medrash that everybody probably heard in many drushes, certainly for me, it's almost like 18 years, coming up on 18 years of drushes, Parshas Bo, the medrash says, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, in the Mechilta, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Chodesh hazeh lachem rosh chodeshim. What does hazeh mean? God pointed to the moon and told him, Kazeh, Re'eh v'kadesh, which literally means, see this, Kazeh, like this, Re'eh, see it, v'kadesh, and sanctify it. So, if Moshe Rabbeinu is saying it, you don't need other witnesses to show up. Reuven and Shimon don't have to come traipsing in to tell Moshe, we saw the moon. Moshe, Kazera Eva Kadesh. Rashi quotes it right here. Kazera Eva Kadesh, right? So Edut HaChodesh is not really required unless the court didn't actually see it. Someone is the stand-in for their eyes, and that's the witnesses. Rashi's view is, what Rabbi Zera means is it's nighttime. So once it's nighttime, the court is not able to declare Mekudesh, Mekudesh, Mekudesh. They have to wait till the next day, till sunrise. The court will convene. But now they can't just say Mekudesh, Mekudesh. Instead, they need two among them to stand before the court and to say to the court what it is that they saw.
Why can't they say Mekudesh, Mekudesh?
I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. Bear with me. It's coming. It's coming. Bear with me. Bear with me. Okay. But are you with me?
Yeah.
You hear it so far?
Good.
Larry, question.
Why couldn't they know when Rosh Hashanah is coming?
By the calculations, let's say. Okay.
Like, what does it mean? What does it take to convene the court?
Well, the court presumably is doing its day job. Let's say they know it's going to be Rosh Chodesh that day. So they're all sitting together. And I just want to remind you, it's not like on that day they're going to see the new moon at 2 p.m. It's not possible. It's a few minutes to the end of the day. That's when they're going to see it. And the end of the day here means Tzedek Kochavim. So it's after, just at sunset, that's they're going to see it.
Answer that court was not convened. That's what I understand. Convene the court. I don't know what it means to convene a court. You see
The court was convened. They were going home already for the night. You mean the next day?
No. It's getting towards
Dark.
dusk. It's getting towards
Dusk.
Dusk. It's dusk.
Mhm.
Court is in session. They've been hearing cases all day.
Right.
They all know.
The answer.
They all know the answer.
Right.
But they're waiting for the.
So the next Rashi, Shira'uhu Balayla, Rashi, Hilkach Lamachar, Yilav Shmiya al Mayikadshu. Rashi thinks that if they didn't declare it when they saw it immediately, then they slept on it and everyone went home for the night.
That's understood. All I'm saying is, I don't understand Rashi because he said, well, they can't convene a court at night.
You're saying they're already convened.
Yes.
But halachically, courts don't function at night unless they're playing out a case that started during the
In
day.
case of the new, yes. That's.
But if it did begin, you're saying that it wouldn't.
We saw that last week.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it won't continue. Right. Right. You might have thought that it could because it still
Different
against
matter.
wood, but this one won't. Yep.
So I just have a question on semantics. It seems to me when Rashi says and the Gemara says too, V'amai, isn't the vav superfluous? What's the reason for adding V'amai?
I think it's just the syntax. And why should this be the case? And why should this be the case? We don't want Shmiya to be greater than Re'iyah. So Rabbi Zera answers, no, it must be that they saw it at night. And that's why they require Edom when they finally get their act together the next day.
Okay.
The next day. Rashi has this idea that if somehow the Beit Din was unable halachically to be constituted as what's called status-wise, not a Beit Din. Halachically, there's no such thing as Beit Din at night, unless it's a carryover of a civil case. But in the case of Eid Chodesh, there is no Beit Din, even though they're still sitting in the room. They're not considered Beit Din anymore. So they're not going to be Beit Din until the next day. So the next day, since there was a break in the action, Rashi thinks they now need witnesses to declare to the court and have that procedure play out. Not everyone agreed with Rashi. The Bali Tosfot say, essentially, that the Re'iyah by the Dayanim, when they see it, that itself is a Haggarat Edut. Right? And there's no Kabbalat Edut at night. The issue is not that the court doesn't exist, it's that the court cannot accept testimony at night. And the seeing by the witnesses is a form of testimony. So what I said until now is, our understanding of the Gemara is that a court only needs witnesses because it can't see everything. It's only in one place. They're not on site when things happen. So witnesses have to come tell them what they've seen, and they have to rely on what the witnesses say they saw. But according to Rashi, if the court could be on site to see something, and you don't need witnesses, they're only required when you don't have any other choice. Tosfot disagree fundamentally. Tosfot maintain that everything goes according to witnesses. And if the judges saw something, then who are the witnesses? The judges are the witnesses. Right. In other words, for Tosfot, the workings of a court are such that the judges are not witnesses, except, the judges need witnesses. I'm sorry, not that they aren't. They need witnesses for every case. But in a certain case where they actually saw the moon, so they are the witnesses. But you cannot accept witnesses. There's no Kabbalah Edut at night. You can't start accepting witnesses at night. And therefore, checking the Edim would be like starting a case. Kitchilat din. We saw that in the civil case we talked about last time. And that can't be at night. So meaning, lo tehei shmiya gedola miriyah. But that's because their re'iyah is a form of shmiyat edut from themselves, which can't happen at night. And what Rabbi Zera is saying is they saw it at night. It's not that there's no such thing as a Beit Din at night. They're sitting in the room. They haven't vaporized. But the point is, in order for things to happen in a court, it's not about the court seeing it. It's about the court receiving testimony about it. And in the case where the judges themselves are the witnesses, then the judges are the witnesses. But they're not just operating where the witnesses are a b'diavad of some. I'm using the term advisedly. There's some like, we're stuck because we can't be there. But if we could be there, we don't need witnesses. Tosfot thinks, no, you do need witnesses. The problem here, and what Rabbi Zera is saying is, it's nighttime, so you can't accept the testimony of the Dayanim who are serving as witnesses. It just doesn't work. I'll show you it inside. Let's read it inside, or you want to have questions first? No, please.
They're having their post
Day review.
party.
Yeah.
They're having their
Yeah.
party at night.
Yeah.
And in walks two guys having a fight. One guy kills the other guy.
Yeah.
The whole basement saw it. Would be the exact same.
In the court.
Yeah, in the court. They're in the courtroom.
So that has other complications.
They're all-
Yeah. There are other complications we'll get to hopefully tonight in the Gemara itself on this matter. But let's say, right, they would have to hold the perpetrator overnight and the next day have a court case.
And the Dayanim could be two of them would be.
Well, that's a question, but assuming, yes, let's say, in order for this to move ahead, according to Rabbi Tarfon at least, they would have to have witnesses come forward and yeah.
But there are no witnesses except for.
The Beit Din has to appoint witnesses from among themselves. Something like that.
Halacha
Yeah.
l'maisa is, you cannot have, what Mark is saying, halacha l'maisa is, if something happened like that, you cannot do anything, and it has to wait till the next day, into the morning.
Right. Right.
So you can't do it. So witnesses are never, so.
They're not just gonna be, this is not gonna be accepted. They tell me you have to wait till the morning. We don't accept witnesses at night, period. That's all.
Are we
That's the
saying in
problem.
general, we don't accept witnesses at night, or just in this case?
No,
In general. In
Well,
general.
but then how can we, because we use witnesses at a chasana, and the wedding takes place at night.
That's a
We
great
use
point.
wedding.
So we're talking about witnesses, we're talking about witnesses that are testifying to an event in a court of law.
So we're not talking.
But we're not talking about anybody witnessing something. And the witnesses at the wedding are the witnesses witnessing the event that's happening.
Correct.
Right. So they're edim l'kiyumei hadavar, if they're edei kiddushin,
Right.
and they're edei, they're edim on the events that happen. If they're signing edei re'iyah, if they're going to sign on the dotted line and the ksuba. But in neither case are they testifying before a Beit Din. A get is not given at night.
True.
At night. But a wedding can happen at night because it's not a Maisa Bezdin.
Right, okay.
Yeah, conversion.
Risky
My Sebastian.
overkill. If there was a question about the validity of the ketubah, the witnesses who signed could not testify
That night.
They would have to.
They go the next day. Okay. Yes. That's not overkill. That's right. Have to be the next day. That's right. That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. That's exactly right. It's exactly right. So look at Tosfot. Yeah, we could do both actually. Lo tehei shmiya gedola mir'iyah Tosfot. So because we saw the Rashi. So Pirish Bekuntras, the Hagabe Edut Achodesh Loktiv Edut Ela Kazera Eva Kadesh. The Kuntras said that the truth is that we don't really need to have Edut in order to do Kiddush HaChodesh, since the Medrash says that Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Kazera Eva Kadesh, which means you see this and sanctify it. It didn't say you see this and go testify in a court, or you wait till witnesses come and tell you what they saw. You see it kazera like this, when it looks like this, see it and sanctify it. So Rashi had said you don't really need Eidim. Eidim are like a sideshow when you're stuck. When you're stuck. But then Tosfot says "V'chinam dachak," but he pushed it off for no good reason. Da'afilu b'din nefashot amrin hachi. Because in din nefashot, we actually say this also. It's not a din davka in Edut HaChodesh that it says Kazer Re'eh Kadesh. Tosfot, the first Tosfot here says in Perak HaChovel and Masechet Bava Kama, if the judges saw something during the day, so also they don't have to. They also don't need witnesses. They saw it, so they're going to move ahead with the case based on what they saw. Tosfot just criticizing Rashi that he localized the idea you don't really need witnesses, specifically in Kiddush HaChodesh, because the Beit Din saw it, and he quoted it from this Medrash Halacha, Kazer Re'eh Kadesh. But the Tosfot would say, but there's capital cases where that's true. Also, the case, Mark's case, where things got out of hand in the after party, the meet and greet, after the l'chaim, after they finish the day, and a guy runs in with another guy, and one guy kills him in front of everybody. It's a what is it? A dinner murder mystery, something like that. So exactly, escape room. And everybody's in the room. So Tosfos say, so what are you pinning it that it's something special about Kiddush HaChodesh? It's true anytime. It's true anytime. Second Tosfot, Kigon Shu'u Balayla. De'ein yicholin l'kadesh al pi re'iyah balayla. You cannot sanctify the moon at night by seeing it at night. The inkain haita re'iyah balayla makom kabbalat edut. Because if so, then seeing it at night would be the actual receiving of testimony. Ve'ein kabbalat edut ela b'yom. Afilu b'dinim mamonot. You cannot accept testimony only during the day, even in civil cases. The kari chakirat edut tchilat din, as we saw earlier in the Gemara, that tchilat din means when you start examining the witnesses who are testifying in any kind of a case. In a civil case, you could say, well, at least if it started during the day, you could extend it. Kiddush HaChodesh, the Chiddush was, it's only during the day. Tosfot here pointing out that essentially the viewing of the new moon at night by the judges, the reason they can't declare it a new month rather, is because they can't receive testimony at night. And that means that the declaration by the Beit Din would be, we're declaring that we saw it, we're the Eidim on the Re'iyat Kiddush HaChodesh. The Rashba and the Ritva both say there's no din at night. And that means, in fact, that the Re'iyah by the Dayanim is not actual Re'iyah as Dayanim. They're strictly Eidim. The judges turn into, like Lahavdol. Cinderella turns into, other things turn into a pumpkin. Okay. The carriage turns into a pumpkin at midnight. When it becomes dark outside, the Beit Din no longer are called Dayanim. They're now just regular folks. The magic is gone. So if they happen to see at night, Rabbi Zera is saying, if they happen to see the moon and it's dark outside, it's night, then the next day, it's not good enough to rest on, but we're Dayanim. They are just witnesses. How many witnesses? All the Dayanim are all witnesses. So they take two of them. And they say, you two will be the witnesses to what we saw last night as witnesses. Now we're judges again. We sit down, we put on our robes and our wigs. They didn't have wigs. I don't even know if they had robes. But when we put on the special outfit, we sit on the semicircular benches. You stand before us and you testify. V'zehu zeh. You understand? So the Rashba and the Ritva are saying that basically they're on a par with all their Eidim. So the next day, the Dayanim cannot be done on their own Eidut because, we'll see later on, ein Eid Nasidayim. An Eid, a witness, cannot just become a judge. So if they were Eidim at night, then the next day they can't all also be the judges. They need two to be the witnesses, and they'll be the judges. Yeah.
The pasuk say Re'eh v'Kadesh in the singular.
Not a pasuk. The pasuk is Chodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodeshim. The Midrash says Kazeh Re'eh v'Kadesh. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Kazeh Re'eh v'Kadesh.
No, they were talking to Moshe.
Moshe. Hashem's talking to Moshe.
But Moshe would interpret it to be for Ledorot.
Okay, keep with me. You're right. Let's wait a second. Now hold on. By the way, and someone mentioned this before. Hold your question. We'll come back to it. It's excellent. It's coming up in the Gemara. But first, various Achronim asked the following question against the Rishonim. they say, okay, all this is true, but the knowledge that these people have is still their knowledge the next day. You want to tell me procedurally you didn't really need witnesses because they saw it, but since they can't be a court at night when they convene in the morning, so now it's a court, now they need witnesses. You want to tell me the issue is that really the Dayanim seeing it, they're witnesses as well, but you can't accept testimony at night, so you have to accept the testimony the next day, and accepting the testimony means having two stand before them. You want to tell me that they're not even Dayanim at night, really, halachically? I mean, they're treated with the respect of the Dayanim, but they're not Dayanim, and therefore they're all Eidim, and then therefore the next day, the two of them can be Eidim, and the rest can be Dayanim, but ain't Eid, not Dayan. They can't suddenly, all the witnesses are like, now we're a court. Doesn't work. I get all that. Say that for some of the Achronim. But the next day, their Yediyah, their knowledge is still intact. So why isn't that enough? The Chidushei Harim picked up this question, and he said, testimony, Eidut, is not just about expressing my knowledge. It's actually about being Ra'ui Leha'id at the time of the event. You need to be worthy of being able to testify at the time when the event happened. And he gave the following example. Two brothers-in-law see something happen. Then the next day, unfortunately, one of them gets divorced. The two men are married to two sisters. So the one couple gets divorced. So now this guy and his ex-brother-in-law, they're not krovim anymore. Can they go to court and say, last night or a week ago when we were brothers-in-law, we saw the murder happen and testify? When we saw it, we were krovim. We weren't allowed to testify. But now we're not krovim anymore. And the answer is they cannot testify. Why? Because at the time when they saw it, they have to be able to be roi lahaid. So now, since the Dayanim saw it at night and they couldn't testify at night, they can't come the next day either and just testify to what they all saw, even though they know it. They have to just find two of them who are going to separate themselves from the court and are going to make this declaration the next day. But it can't be the court itself because they were not ru'uyim laha'id at night.
Even though they were aiding, but they weren't.
Ru'uyim laha'id, because you can't give testimony at night. So when they saw it at night, they couldn't testify at that time. So the next day, they can't say, but we all saw it last night. Yes, you all saw it last night, but now we need the actual procedure where Adam will stand and Adam will testify to the court. Not that the court is now all sorts of people who are all judges and witnesses at the same time. By the way, had they all seen it during the end of the day, had they gotten it in time before nightfall, it's just after sunset, they see the sliver and quickly they want to say Mekudesh, Mekudesh, according to this Chidushei Harim at least, he's already an Achron. Sounds like it would be good enough. You don't need two to stand in front of the others. That's why Rabbi Zera comes in and says, well, it must have been nighttime. And that's why you need the witnesses. But at least as far as the Gemara, the Pshat of the Gemara is concerned, you don't need necessarily to have two stand in front of the court, according to the Shakalatari of the Gemara. Because the Gemara says, why are you making hearing the testimony greater than people who actually saw what happened? And the answer is, well, it was nighttime. So when they got convened the next day, you need two to stand separate from the rest of the Beit Din. The Gemara has another exactly related case, like a step up to the same thing. The Gemara says, well, all of this was case 2 in the Gemara, in the Mishnah, but there's a case 3. And case 3 is a case where they have 3 people who are mumchim, 3 who have the smicha of Sanhedrin Agadol. Where's everybody else? I don't know. They're not available. That's the case. 3 judges saw it. Well, if they're going to take 2 among them to stand and be testifying, we don't have a Beit Din anymore. So they have to get 2 other judges to sit in to make a Beit Din of 3. So the Gemara here says, Ra'u, the Mishnah is quoted here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines up. Ra'u shlosha, v'hein Beit Din, yamdu shnayim v'yoshivu mechaverim etzel hayachid. So the Gemara opens up with Amai, Hachanami Nema, Lo Tehei Shmiya Gedola Mira'iyah. Right? So, again, why is this being taught to us? Here also, do you want to try to say the same thing we said a moment ago? That the whole problem is you can't have Shmiya be greater than Re'iyah. V'chitema hachinami kevin shira'u balayla hainu hach. If you're going to tell me, well, it's that they saw it at night, therefore we need to know that if there's 3 judges, 2 have to stand up and you need 2 fillers to go sit with the original. So come on. Who are you fooling? You did that case already. What's the chiddush? Hainuach, it's the same case. So the Gemara says, Sefer Itzrichalei. We really need a chiddush here. The chiddush is in the Sefer. What's that? Dein hayachid ne'eman al atzmo. That you can't leave one judge and say that he's going to be able to be Mekadesh Chodesh on his own. Because 2 get up to be the witnesses. We saw already why you need 2 to get up to be the witnesses. You need that procedural element. That's what we just saw. And the point is that now there's 1 man sitting and 2 standing up. So the Gemara says the chiddush is that you need to bring 2 others to sit down and fill the slots. You might have thought that 1 guy on his own, the Salkadai Hamina, Hoyle, since we already have an idea that we have elsewhere, Vitanya, not Vitanan, Vitanya, Dina Mamonot, Bishlosha, Vimhayamum Chalarabim, Dana Filu Biyachid, you might have again tried to draw that parallel to civil cases. In a civil case, you need 3 judges. That's normally what we say. But it turns out if the person is an expert for the public, they're known to be the greatest gadol out there, so they can be a judge by themselves. So you might have thought, Hachanami, Nikachi B'Yechidi. Maybe if the person who's left is a gadol, the gadol in the whole town, the gadol in Yerushalayim, and he's the Av Beitin, and 2 of them with him, and then the 2 get up to testify, to him it should be good enough. Kamash Malan, not good enough. You always need a Beitin of at least 3. That's the rule for Kiddush HaChodesh. And then the Gemara says, Ve'ema hachanami, ein lecha mumcha. So maybe you'll say you need another answer. Let's say also another answer. This one from a pasuk. You'll say like this: Ein lecha mumcha l'rabim b'Yisrael yotmi Moshe Rabbeinu. As Yehuda pointed out, who's greater than Moshe Rabbeinu? Didn't Hashem say to Moshe Rabbeinu, Kazeh ra'eh v'kadesh? He spoke to Moshe in the singular, in the Medrash. And yet, the Kamar that Kodesh Baruch Hu, yet Hashem said to him, Adi'ika Aaron b'hadach. You need Aaron with you, dichtiv, because the pasuk actually says, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe ve'el Aharon be'eretz Mitzrayim lemor hachodesh hazeh lachem. Since Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Kazer Eva Kadesh, you might have thought it means he could do it on his own. No, the fact that Hashem spoke to Moshe and Aaron tells you that actually require a beitin to actually be sitting there to accept the Eidah Chodesh. In the case of Moshe and Aaron, there are only 2; they're not 3. So the Bali Tosfot point out right here that that the truth is you cannot ever have an even number in a beitin. So there must have been a 3rd, and we don't know who the 3rd is. In Shmot Rabbah, and Parshat Bo, Shmot Rabbah says who is the 3rd? Hashem is the 3rd. The Meiri says also they found someone else. I think the Meiri names who it is. You can't have 2 judges. You need 3. So if there were 3 judges and they saw the moon, you would think they could just say themselves, okay, new moon, new month. But no, 2 will have to get up and be the ones to testify before the court, and 2 others will have to come sit down with them. You might have thought maybe 1 on their own, Moshe Rabbeinu. So have 2 testify to Moshe Rabbeinu, good enough. No, we need 3 Dayanim seated at the time. Yeah.
The Gemara is disregarding the fact that Moshe and Aaron croaked.
And that. Oh, that's what the Meiri says. The Meiri says, listen, they're brothers, so they couldn't really be, there's a bit of a problem there also with them being Adim, and if they're the Dayanim and the Adim. So he said, and also Meiri alleges it's just the 2 of them this one time. After that, the rule was set. You have to have an odd number. So, right, exactly. So look at even though it's the first mitzvah in the Torah, but okay, it's given to the Klal Yisrael, to the whole nation. So look at Tosfot here, Adi'ika Aaron Bahadach. Say it's the last Tosfot on Chaf Hamid Bet. Ve'ein beitin shakel. You cannot have an even beitin. Mosifin alein od echad. They're going to have 1 more that'll be added. It doesn't say what it is. And then Bali Tosfot would say the following: V'sugya dehacha kitmanda amar b'shmaita kamaita, the Sanhedrin. This sugya follows one of the 2 opinions in the machloket that appears in the first sugya in Masechet Sanhedrin on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. It's Bet Amud Bet Gimel Amud Aleph. What is that? So I'll just tell you outside, and then we'll see it inside. There's a machlok at the beginning of Masechet Sanhedrin. The one opinion says, really, deoraita, you always need 3 dayanim mumchim. Mumchim, experts. Their authority, their level of knowledge must be expert. However, even though minator, that's what's required, the chachami made a takana. The takana is, if we have to go find the constituted Beit Din, every time you want to do something with a Beit Din, you have to go to the CRC and make an appointment. You have to go. It's going to take too long. And people will say, I'm not going to loan that guy money, because if I have to loan that guy money, I'm going to have to go to the Beit Din. It's 5 hours of my day. I don't want to do it. So you're locking the door, and people will be able to get credit. They can't borrow any money because no one wants to lend them any money because it's too annoying. So we'll say, okay, pick any 3 dayanim hedyotot, 3 judges who know something, but they're not really of the same caliber, but they're much more available. It's a takana. So lotin al delets, you don't lock the door in front of the people who want to borrow money. So Chazal permitted hedyotot to be serving as the dayanim. That's opinion number 1, first sugya basically, in Masechet Sanhedrin. The other opinion says no. Me'ikar hadin, the truth is 1 judge would be enough. 1 judge would be enough. But Chazal made a takana that you require 3. And it doesn't matter if it's 3 mumchim or 3 hedyotot. Really, 1 would have been enough, but Chazal were machmir to add for 3. So the Baitos would say, you know what? Our sugi over here just took the second side of that argument, because the Gemara here said, well, you might have thought that 1 judge would be enough, but you learn special din in Kiddush HaChodesh, you need 3. Special din in Kiddush HaChodesh, you need 3. But otherwise, you would think that maybe you only need 1 judge. Said Bali Tosfot, we just answered a question from the beginning of Masechet Sanhedrin in the machloket between the 2. This Gemara seems to be sitting on that side of the bench, together with that opinion that says that really, Mina Torah, you only need 1 judge. But Midirabanan, you need 2 more. So Tosfot write it as follows. And our sug, you'll see. So Dvar Torah, Chad Nami Kasha. What?
It's just dini mama.
Yeah, but the point is, the question that's sort of hanging over this Gemara again and again and again, to what extent, if at all, are we going to make an analogy between the court convening for Kiddush HaChodesh and a court convening in a civil case? Well, you need 3. You need witnesses, but it ends there, Point is, there are certain piles, but not too many. So here, Dvar Torah Chad Nami Kasher. Right? It follows, according to the opinion, holds that according to the Torah, at least, even 1 judge alone would be okay. Why? Dichtiv, in the singular, B'tzedek Tishpot. B'tzedek Tishpot Amitacha, in Parsha Kedoshim. With righteousness, you shall judge, in the singular. Not Tishpetu, but Tishpot. Midi Itzerich Le, Hacha, Ad Ika Aaron, Bahadach. And here we require the pasuk to say, "Oh, Aaron has to be with you," because Hashem spoke to Moshe and Aaron. So you need to say that Aaron had to be there, meaning that here we require a special chiddush. You need 3 dayanim at Kiddush HaChodesh. Kiddush HaChodesh is also called a mishpat. Ki chok Yisrael hu mishpat l'luhei Yaakov. So, i.e., without the drasha from Parshat Bo, adding Aaron as part of that Beit Din, as being essential, a havamina that maybe Kiddush HaChodesh is also okay with only 1 dayan, which is opinion number 2 in that machloket back away in Masechet Sanhedrin. And then the Tosfot continues. According to the first opinion, right, the Leman de boy midoraita shlosha mumchin uchdei shelotin ol delet hirshiru b'shlosha hedyota. But according to the first opinion, that holds that really midoraita you need 3 expert judges in order to make things happen in the court. But there's a certain permission that's given for the sake of not locking the door in front of the debtors. So you want to be able to borrow money, so you allow. But when it comes to Eid Chodesh, who's getting the short end of the stick if you don't require 3 mumchin? Nobody. So therefore, Gabi Eid Chodesh ein la'achshir, right? Then you don't need a pasuk. So the Tosfot would say the fact that the Gemara marshaled, in addition to its argument that it made first, that just said, that you had a havamina, 1 would be enough, but kamash malan, you need 3. And therefore, when 2 out of the 3 get up, another 2 have to sit down with them. Then it said, and also there's a pasuk. The Bible says, "Oh, why is there a pasuk there? Why do you need a pasuk? Why was it enough to say one and adding another two?" So it has to do with this machloket going on Masechet Sanhedrin, and the fact that you needed the pasuk, or that you would say maybe you really do need three. In the world of loans, there was a particular permission granted to facilitate society's economic activity. But here there's no economic activity. So we hold a high standard, and that is that. So then the Gemara here, the last few lines, which I'm over time. I got to stop here because there's girls coming to my house for the girls' bat mitzvah group, and apparently they get nervous if they get to the house. I'm not in the house. So it's 8:15. They'll come 8:04. So I'll be late. Huh? Lori won't let him in. Exactly. We have literally a tiny little piece left. I guess we'll be Messiah in quotation marks, all in Yanim related to Kiddush HaChodesh next year. And then we'll start already in the next Mishnah, hopefully the next year. God willing, next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And then we'll be into Inyane Rosh Hashanah till we finish the Masechta, essentially. Ad Kan for tonight.